Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto formed the Forbidden Avalon Bond and risked his life to become unstoppable? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Yashiro had been sleeping in his bed when he heard the noise of a couple of trucks stopping close to his house. The boy quickly ran outside his house to see the whole commotion, as indeed there were two trucks stopping in front of his gate. A middle-aged bald man soon dropped from the first truck and said that he was in the service of one Tashaka Rin and that the truck had her boxes. Shiro released a sigh in dismay at that as he remembered the conversation from last night. He nodded at the worker, before seeing another four of the man's crew appear from within the trucks and unload Rin's boxes. It was at this point that Saber appeared from within his house and he could see that she was alarmed just as he was. "Shiro, are you okay? I heard a loud noise and came to see what it was." "It's nothing, Saber. Tasaka said yesterday that she would send some of her stuff here. I just did not realize that she would pack her entire house." The servant nodded as she got out of the way of the moving men who were delivering Rin's boxes inside the house and left right there by the entrance. Flashback. Yesterday Yesterday was the first day after the ending of the Fifth Grail War when Shiro faced the strongest servant ever while Rin and Saber destroyed the Grail. It was yesterday when Shiro was told that Rin decided to maintain Saber as her familiar and that she would be teaching him about magic while Saber would be focusing on his battle training. Of course, Shiro had no clue how they would go about their daily routine, since their main focus was on the war and how to survive it. Now, Shiro would receive training from both Rin and Saber. Yes, but training about what exactly? Rin had told him that she needed to get home to make some arrangements, leaving him and Saber alone inside his house at night. After Rin left, Shiro then went to clean the dishes, leaving Saber sitting on the house's table. The servant looked at the boy in wonder as she could see that he was worried about something. "What is it, Shiro?" Shiro turned from the dishes and looked at the person who once was his servant. "Oh, it's nothing. I just wonder how our lives is going from here. I think I'm still caught up with the events of the Fifth Grail War and can't really think about much else." When he received no answer from the golden-haired girl, Shiro stopped the dishes and turned to see Saber still kneeling on her cushion but with a thoughtful look on her face. It took only a second for him to kick himself for being so selfish. Saber had said yesterday that she wished to be by his side protecting him until the very end. But she must be feeling at a loss about this just as much as he did. He then quickly made some tea for her and some late-night snacks and placed them by the table, surprising the servant. Saber, for her chance, found that she was looking aimlessly. "Sorry there, Saber, I should have counted your feelings in this. I apologize," she smiled, gladly accepting the tea. "You don't have to apologize, the events of the war are still fresh in all of us. I also wonder how life is going to be like now that we no longer have to worry about the Grail War. For so long, my mind was focused only in winning the Grail and thus having my wish granted. Still now, when we know about its true nature from Gilgamesh, I still wonder about the past, the pain, the trauma, those I lost along the way. Once I stop and think about them, about my family, about the knights, about my kingdom and how I failed them. And now, we are here and it was my choice to remain here with you and Rin, Shiro. But, like you said, we are entering into unknown territory." Shiro nodded at her, remembering the dreams he had of her of that time. Yesterday, she sounded so sure of her choice in remaining with them, that Shiro wondered if she even had time to truly think about it. Still, he at least was happy that she made the choice and he would make sure that she got everything she needed to make her life a lot easier. "Well, Tasaka must have some plan for me in terms of magic training and we also can have our morning spars like we used to, remember?" Saber saw Shiro smiling at her for reassurance and she did enjoy their spars. "I don't want to be a burden to Tasaka, but I really need to increase my mana capacity if I am to help her sustain you, Saber, however that mean." She, for some reason, was skittish trying to explain. "I can see that you are feeling lost, but I guess we can find our way together, I guess. I was happy when I woke up today and saw you again in my dojo." Saber could not find within herself to worry as she saw that friendly smile on his face for as she was glad to be able to see him once more. Throughout these dark times, it was nice to have a friend to count on and even someone who went through similar paths and even had similar ideals. "Ah, you're right, Shiro, we can face this together." Now, please tell me how the fight with Gilgamesh happened. I'm quite curious to know. Shuru was glad that the girl had stopped worrying as he told her about the fight. How at first it appeared that he would be able to face the man just like he did against Archer, but found that Gilgamesh had simply too many weapons. Shuru had managed to trace a great load of weapons from the Gate of Babylon, but in the end, it was both his realty marble with Rin's engraved magic crest and then Archer's arrow that sealed the deal. Still, in the end, if Shuru was against any other servant, he knew he would not last long, and Saber concurred. While she found that Shuru was quite strong, he would not be a match against herself or even Lancer in a straight fight. Still, in the end, to her winning was the only thing that mattered. In a war, it does not matter whose side is the strongest, just who turned out victorious in the end. Saber even came to know from Shuru that if it wasn't for Archer, then Shuru would be taken by Gilgamesh and the Grail. So, with your realty marble, you have increased the speed in which you traced the swords, nullifying his own. Yes, training to increase your mana capacity will benefit you, Shuru, and I can teach you about a personal skill of my own I utilize in battle called Mana Burst. It will certainly aid you in battle, and with Rin's training, you will be able to increase the speed of your tracing magic. However, do not expect me to go easy on you. Now that you have acquired a style of fighting from Archer, I will increase the pace. Shuru looked on in determination at Saber. Eventually, each went to their own respective bedrooms to sleep. Present time . Once the moving crew left, Shuru and Saber were curiously looking at the boxes, but all that Shuru could see inscribed in the books were the words, books, and miscellaneous. Though they were 4 boxes with books, Satasaka was not kidding when she would initiate his training in magic. Still, if Shuru really wished not to have a morning headache, in the name of Taiga, he asked Saber to help him move the boxes to Rin's room. Shuru and Saber were now in the kitchen as Shuru was busy preparing breakfast for them, and usually it was quite a party. Saber, he knew, ate for 2 at the very least, and even now, with her no longer sustained by the Grail, she needed the energy of food and the sleep to conserve. Taiga ate a lot as well, and perhaps Sakura and Rin will come along for the ride. In no time, the door to the kitchen opened and Rin appeared, already changed for school. Morning Tasaka. Morning Rin. Morning Emiya. Saber. Rin dropped her bag as she casually sat next to Saber. Tasaka, your boxes are already here, so Saber and I had already placed it inside your room. Rin nodded as Shuru distributed the dishes around the breakfast table, with Saber already serving herself obviously. Thank you. After school, I still need you to help me bring my clothes here. Shuru looked up at her and nodded, wondering why the girl had decided to move in like that. Certainly he did not recall talking about it. Say Tasaka, wouldn't you be more comfortable in your house? Rin snorted. Why Emiya, do you not want me to live here with you? Saber was just happy that she was there eating Shuru's breakfast while listening to these two talking like this. Rin would always make snide comments and Shuru would become embarrassed. No, it's not that. I'm happy to have you, it's just, well, never mind. Rin just smiled at him, before accepting a dish from Saber. After school, we will start devising your training, Emiya, and the reason I went home last night was to gather a few things we need to better prepare you. I won't say more, because it appears that Taiga and Sakura are arriving. In fact, the table was now complete as Shuru was busy now feeding 4 women, 5 if you count that Saber ate for 2. He was simply glad to watch each of them busy conversing with each other. Even Saber quickly got along in the conversation, much to his delight. He needed to make sure that she had everything she needed and perhaps even make some friends. Now that he realized, Saber would be here in his house all alone without nothing to do while they were at school. A couple of ideas surged in his mind that she could do while waiting for them. While Shuru was uncomfortable with the fact that her life became dependent on his own and Rin's, at least for the time being, he would try introducing her into town. Eventually, Shuru took out the dishes with the help of Sakura, while Taiga and Rin conversed with Saber. Shuru then opened his fridge and grabbed bread, cheese and ham, together with his own special sauce. He then quickly made some sandwiches while Sakura looked at him funny. Their school had a cafeteria, so she wondered why Shuru would bother to make sandwiches. Still, by the happy look on his face, she could not help but smile. Her senpai was always like this when he cooked. Sakura then went to the bathroom to clean herself, while Shuru finished placing the sandwiches inside a picnic basket. Rin was with Saber alone talking when Shuru appeared by their side with the picnic basket. What is that for Emiya? The school has a cafeteria, you know. This is for you Saber, there is a nice park close to the school, I figured you could hang there while we go to school today and here are some sandwiches for you. Saber looked at the basket and then at Shuru, before beaming at him for the food. She was surprised to realize that they would leave the house and she would be alone here with nothing to do. While she was content with simply being inside the house, it felt good that she at least had something to do to pass the time. Rin looked at the sandwiches and nodded at him with a smile. She could even visit Saber in the park in between classes. Still, Shuru was right. Saber had to be able to occupy her free time while neither she nor Shuru were nearby. Well, when their training commenced, then Saber would be quite busy, but for the time being, they could help her acclimate better. After school Shuru, Rin and Saber walked together towards Rin's house as they grabbed a couple of bags with her clothes. After that, they went back to the Emiya's household, where Shuru's training would commence. On the way, Shuru and Rin were talking while Saber walked on ahead. So, is there anything you wish to improve Emiya? I have written a couple pointers, but it would be best to hear from you first. Indeed, Shuru had something he wished to talk about. In terms of spells, I guess the only types of skills I wish to learn are what will complement me in battle. Aside from training the basics of magecraft, perhaps knowing how to perform healing magecraft would be ideal. Also, Tasaka, I remember you saying about my magic circuits not being ideal. I wished to see what we could do to improve the number of magic circuits to be at least able to help you in maintaining Saber. Rin just listened as Shuru progressed. After my fight with Archer, my mana capacity improved and I appreciate the magic crest you supplied me for the fight against Gilgamesh, but if I am to stand by your side and help you maintain Saber, I need to increase the number of magic circuits. Shuru heard a sigh in resignation from Rin and saw her serious look. I thought along the same lines, though it surprised me about the healing magecraft, though considering you wish to be a battle magus, it's appropriate. Also, runescraft can be quite a tool to have in the field. Also, Emiya, I do believe it is imperative to improve your magic circuits, though there is no other way than artificially implanting a magic crest on you. Shuru looked on in surprise. Normally, a magus is already born with the magic circuits and thus rely on his own to use mana. While yours are of considerable quality, it is not sufficient for what we are to attain. The Tasaka family have many magic crests and I had selected one that my father first received from his father and before you ask, no, I'm not giving you my family's magic crest. The one on her arm was the collection of the entire knowledge of her family and her own heirloom. Nice, thank you Tasaka. You won't be so considering of me tonight, Emiya. I can tell you that the procedure to implant a magic crest on you is quite risky and will hurt, a lot. Normally, I would not even consider this procedure as it could kill a normal person. Shuru looked at her in slight surprise. Saber was even looking back at them. She was hearing the conversation intently as soon as she heard that this procedure would hurt Shuru. Passing down magic crests is normally done when you are an infant. Your body is still in growth and thus able to acclimate to the foreign energy and knowledge. To be frank, this is the first time ever it will be attempted on an adult. Also, magic crests work better when there is a blood relationship. It's not unprecedented to implant a magic crest in someone without relation to the magus. But, the pain will be larger because of it. For it to work, after the implant, you will be forbidden from using magic for at least a week. Shuru looked below for a while and then looked up to her in resolve. But, before he openly declared to go through with it, Saber slowed down. Shuru still have Avalon with him. It can help him better handle the pain, Rin. And the closer I am to Avalon, the more powerful it becomes. Rin turned pensive at that, remembering how Shuru told her that Saber's noble phantasm helped him in their fight with Archer and even against Gilgamesh, she reasoned. Avalon was able to heal all of Shuru's injuries throughout the fights. It will help, sure. However, it is my guess that Avalon will help ease the pain but will not prevent it. Shuru, it will be quite excruciating. You will feel the new magic circuits grind alongside your own. And even if you have already my own mana inside the makeshift magic crest on your shoulder, it is still alien energy invading your body. Avalon can work as an anesthetic to ease the pain. But, if we are to do this, if we wish to survive against whatever crazy stunt we know you're prone of doing, Saber nodded, concurring at that, and Shuru looked embarrassed, but not apologetic. Then, this is necessary. If we're successful, then you will have enough magic circuits to be considered a first-rate magus, well, not in my level, but still, better than average. To this, Shuru's sweat dropped. Still, he knew that in battle, he would be able to beat her. They soon reached the house and Saber helped Rin unpack, while Shuru stood at the garden in deep thought. He knew he needed to be stronger for what's to come. He knew he needed this not only to be stronger, but also to better aid Rin in maintaining Saber. He realized something when both Rin and Saber emerged from the house. Tasaka, about Saber, I wanted to help you better maintain her. As such, is it possible for both of us to maintain her together? Rin looked startled at that, but turned to think. Yes, I could extend the contract I have with her with you, though that would only be possible once I finish the implantation of the magic crest. As you are right now, you may be able to sustain half of what she needs, but you would not be able to do much else. Truth be told, Rin was rather thankful that Shuru had approached her with this. Yes, she needed his help to maintain her, but at least this way, they could share the burden, and if Shuru improves, then Rin could have ground for improvement herself. However, there was something else they needed to talk about, something that she was dreading, hence why she did not have the will to freely talk about it. However, Emiya, even extending her contract with you may not be enough, at least in the short term. Both Shuru and Saber could see the heavy blushing on Rin's face, but she needed to talk about it. What do you mean, Tasaka? Is this why you were so nervous yesterday? Rin nodded and cleared her throat. Eventually, there will be the necessity of mana transfer between the three of us so that Saber can receive stronger mana. Saber instantly knew what the woman was talking about and was quite averse to the idea, but she waited for Rin to finish. Magical energy is prone to merge with the Magus' fluids, and the fluids are better at holding magical energy for some time even after leaving the body. And the better way to transfer fluids is from. Shuru has heard enough and waved his hands frantically for her to stop. Frankly, Rin was not at all comfortable, but she understood the necessity. She could see though that Saber and Shuru had the same outraged look on their faces. While she thought that Saber would indeed be against it, with Shuru being a male teenager, then he would show a goofy look. She had to say she was pleasantly surprised that he was averse to the idea, even if it would be pragmatic to happen. Shuru had already shown her on more than one occasion how different he was than the rest. Are you mad, Tasaka? How can you say that? Saber chose to remain here with us. Someone of her status does not need this, not after what she's been through. I have to say, Rin, that I'm quite uncomfortable with what you're leading on. Rin could not help but took a step back at their responses back at her. Wait, why am I the bad guy here? It's just basic magic procedure, though come to think about it, even when I gave him some of my mana, I was close to fainting with embarrassment. I know, I was not comfortable about it either. Both Shuru and Saber still looked mad at her for even suggesting it, and Rin released a sigh, dismissing the subject entirely. Just the thought of having intercourse with him, even if for pragmatic purposes, was enough to her to lose sight of her thoughts. Wait, you said fluids in general, right? Rin looked at Shuru and nodded. Does that mean that blood is also a good candidate? Well, it would not be as powerful as semen, as through semen, we would be transferring mana directly. In your blood, there is no mana, but odd, which is considered a lesser source. Odd is the life force energy found within living organisms, not only in humans, but also animals and magical beasts. Mana transfer does work better, but if you were to give blood to her, then it also works, though you would need to supply her regularly, even twice a day. Shuru remembered how Ryder had bitten Ayako in the Grail War and figured that at least he could better sustain Saber by sharing the contract with Rin and also grant Saber access to his blood. However, by the look on Saber's face, this was still not a sound solution to their problem. Shuru, while I am not averse to your method, which is way better than what Rin had suggested, Rin flinched at the look she was receiving from the King of Britannia. She had just suggested, damn it. Not only do I not wish to be a burden to you, but I will be hurting you by doing this. I have made an oath as a knight to protect you. The amount of blood I would be taking from you would be substantial. Shuru looked at his once servant and smiled. While it would indeed hurt, he figured it was very little he could do to ease her stay. And by doing this, he could better help Rin sustain Saber in this time. Do not worry, Saber, just like you made a vow to protect me, this is the least I can do to help you. Plus, You don't need to worry about hurting me. Compared to being on the receiving end of Berserker's axe sword, this is nothing. Only you would consider taking on Heracles' attack as if it was a normal occurrence. Saber could not help but concur with Rin's statement. Okay, I guess I can accept that, though I can tell you too that it won't be necessary twice a day. Once my bond with Shuru returns, I believe that it won't be necessary to have it twice a day, though that will depend on how much mana you're supplying me, Shuru. I also don't want to be a burden on Rin too much, especially when we start facing enemies once more. Shuru and Rin nodded, and Shuru lifted his sleeve and gave Saber his wrist. The servant looked apprehensive but complied as she grabbed his wrist with both her hands and brought it close to her mouth. Using her canines, Saber quickly pierced his wrist, earning a sharp pain from Shuru, and Saber looked at him with concern. Still, as she began his blood, she was surprised to see the amount of energy she was receiving. As much so, that she felt less of Rin's energy because of it as her body regulated between both her masters. She could taste the sweetness of his blood as well as the energy from Avalon. When Shuru became lightheaded, Saber stopped blood from him instantly. The wound on his wrist was quickly closed because of Avalon. Are you alright, Shuru? The concerned look on Saber's face was too much for him. I'm fine, just not used to this, that's all. I will be better next time. Rin could feel less of her own energy being used to supply Saber, and she was glad that it worked well. It appeared that Shuru's former bond with Saber as her master also improved the level of the transfer, and with Avalon inside Shuru, then she guessed that in the future, Saber will be able to depend on both equally to sustain herself, without weighting either of them down. Perhaps, even more from Shuru than her, considering Avalon. How are you feeling, Saber? Saber looked up and became introspective. Much better, Rin. With Shuru providing me his blood, and once my bond with him returns, I think I will be close to full capacity. The Tasaka heir was surprised at that, wondering how strong her bond is with Avalon. I am glad to be of assistance to you, Saber. You have always saved me back then, it's nice to be able to help you. She offered his hand for him to get up, which he appreciated. Shuru once told her that he was not a good master to her, but she disagreed wholeheartedly. Rin looked at the scene with a smile before she walked towards the shed on his house. Looking inside, Rin extended her hand and closed her eyes before a bounded field was formed. Oh, and one more thing. Seeing as I will be living here, we will be using this warehouse for you to practice your magic. I will be placing my library here as well, as I need to practice my own. Shuru did not have a problem with that, as long as he had his own personal space for his hobbies. Your first pile of books is already selected. You will have a week to read through it, as it is quite basic material. Also, we will be implanting the magic crest tonight, so be prepared. Lastly, Saber, you two can begin your fighting class tomorrow, but Shuru won't be able to use magic for at least a week. That said, it can only be regular fighting spars as he will be forbidden to use magic. Saber nodded. She wanted to fight him to see how his archer style of fighting matched hers, though they would have to shorten the shinai to resemble archers. Shuru, by my estimate, your training should last at least until we graduate, so please no funny business for 2 years at least, alright? After both me and Saber state that you are ready, we can begin planning the next steps. Shuru frowned at that, but looking at Saber, he could see that the servant agreed. A part of him wanted to go out there right now and save people, but he guessed that doing so, it would not be ideal. He needed to get stronger, and that took time. He acknowledged Rin, knowing that right now, he would not be able to face someone on Rin's level, and he knew that eventually, he would have to face enemy magus across the world. Thus he needed every training and knowledge he could get his hands on. _= at night ===. It took Rin a total of 5 hours to complete the procedure as she implanted the magic crest on his chest. Right now, Saber and Rin were inside Shuru's room as both flinched at his screams of agony. Saber had enough experience not to turn her eyes away, as she was used to seeing the medics of her time heal the wounded warriors. Rin had the magus experience, but even she wondered if he had what it took to withstand such pain. As she stated, Shuru's body was on fire as the new magic circuits were spreading throughout his body, together with his own. He could feel as if he was being cut by a sharp knife in every part of his body. This pain would last for a long time, but it was tougher at the beginning. By tomorrow, Shuru will still feel pain, but not so extreme as right now. Avalon was working its magic on him, but like Rin said, it did not prevent the pain, but numbed it instead. As Rin stated, normally, this procedure would happen amongst family relatives and the one who received was still a child. Shuru had no blood relationship to her father and also was almost an adult. The pain thus was even more excruciating. Saber was busy using a wet cloth to ease his headache, but it was more for support than anything. Rin, why don't you rest for a while? I will wake you in case he gets worse. The Tashaka heir looked at her and saw her worried gaze for him. Rin could see how deeply Saber cared about Shuru's well-being and nodded. Thank you Saber, but you should rest as well. Come wake me up in 2 to 3 hours. Saber wished to say that she could remain by Shuru's side the entire time, but she needed the rest just as much, at least until her body received more energy on a regular basis. Once alone, Saber looked at her master in pain and frowned in concern. She had chosen to be by his side to protect him, but Shuru had chosen to suffer this much just for her sake and Rin's. Still, she was glad to be able to count on him for this. Her mission in this new life of hers was to be by his side, so that together with Rin, they could protect him, they could sway him from becoming like Archer. But that would not be possible, if Saber needed to be sustained by Rin the entire time. Rin also had her own life and goals to look up to. She was glad at the girl for the offer right after Saber destroyed the Grail. This way, she could fulfill her oath to Shuru, seeing as her wish would no longer happen. Saber, please go rest, I can handle this. Shuru murmured between grunts of pain, but Saber nodded in the negative. Her old master could be quite stubborn at times. The closer I am to you Shuru, the stronger Avalon will become and alleviate your pain. He mumbled in pain, now less than before. The pain was still present, but he was getting used somehow. I just don't want to trouble you, Saber snorted and dried his forehead. You must allow others to help you Shuru. You will never be a burden to me or Rin. He frowned at that, still not used to getting used to treatment. In the war, he was unconscious a lot, so he did not know that this situation was not new to Saber. A good part of him, however, still felt like he did not deserve it, but he did not find within himself to expose his way of thinking to Saber. She could have chosen to return to her timeline and rest. She chose to remain by their side in this time, so he could not and would not make things hard for her. As such, he nodded in appreciation to Saber, earning a smile from her. Still, he could feel his magical energy spark inside of him, but it passed through not only his own magic circuits but also the new ones that Rin implanted. It was this process that was the most agonizing. His own energy passing through foreign magic circuits, which were slowly and very painfully integrating into his system. This new magic crest would double his existing 27 magic circuits. While it was nowhere near Rin's, it would be enough for a battle magus such as himself. Next day Eventually, the boy managed a few hours of rest as he opened his eyes. He got up from his bed and flinched at the constant but now more manageable pain. Rin was by his side as she helped him get up. Saber was resting. How are you feeling, Emiya? Rin used her own mana to inspect the implanted crest and found that it was working nicely. She did not tell them, but this was the first time she ever attempted such a procedure. She had the brains to do it, but not the experience. Still, she guessed that Avalon had aided her in the end. Without it, she did not believe she would have succeeded. Better, thank you Tasaka. Rin gave him a bottle of water and Shuru drank it all. It still hurts a lot, but I am more used to it by now. Rin nodded, but Shuru could see that she was having trouble looking at him. I was worried that I failed it somehow, your screams of agony were too much, and I thought that I messed up somehow. I'm glad that you're okay. Shuru smiled at her. You did good, Tashaka. Shuru was surprised when she screamed at him. Idiot, I was worried about you, once more you are taking too many risks and what I do, I simply enable such a procedure, it could have killed you. But it didn't. Rin was surprised when Shuru embraced her and she embraced him back in comfort. While Shuru did confess his feelings for her throughout the war, it was something done in the span of the moment for them. Still, she had indeed feelings for him, just not in that way. After their moments together, she realized that in the end, he had become a dear friend to her and also a fellow magus to rely on. She had also remembered her promise to Archer to be by his side, and she would keep her promise made to her servant, and together with Saber, she would help him, just like Shuru will be there for her and Saber. A week has passed since Rin had implanted one of her father's magic crests on Shuru. While it was still painful on occasion, the boy was already used to the feeling somewhat. Today was the first day that he got clearance from his tutors to use magic. Of course, it did not mean that he had simply stood still this past week, doing nothing training-wise. Every day, he had his morning workout with saber and sword fighting. Ever since he had acquired better grasp at his fighting style from Archer, Shuru had become a better sparring partner for Saber. Their fights would begin at 6 in the morning and would go on until close to 8 when Shuru would collapse on the ground, afterward. Despite Saber still being aghast seeing Shuru using Archer's style, she eventually relented seeing it did suit her sparring partner better. Still, she would be damned if Shuru was limited to a single fighting style. So, the servant pretty much obligated Shuru to learn at least the basics of her own style. It did not take long for him to learn the movements, as he found out that Saber could be quite the slave driver when it comes to sword fighting these days. Every time he wronged a move, Saber would strike him, and obviously it was not merely a gentle strike. He could not argue against its effectiveness, however, much to Saber and even Rin's amusement. He now had 2 vicious women in his life training him with the same method. Get it right or else, Saber would use her shinai on him and Rin would fire a gander shot. Highly effective indeed. Today, Shuru fought against Saber using Archer's style, while at the same time using mana bursts just for body movement purposes. If they focused it on the wooden swords, it would not handle the strain. You have to be faster and more precise. Shuru, the boy, attacked with one of the shinai while keeping the other close to his body. He nodded and increased the pace. You need to keep focused on my movements at all times. Saber got inside Shuru's defense, forcing him to back off as he blocked her strike. When you block, your mind has to visualize where I am going next. Each movement you do will have a counter movement of mine. And the same applies to me. Sword fighting is a dance. Shuru flinched as he failed to block a frontal assault that landed on his shoulder. Still, he recovered from the pain quickly and used both his short shinai to block Saber's attack from above that aimed for his head. His knees buckled at the strain before he used his arms to push Saber away. Bursting his movement forward, Shuru went on the offensive, earning an approval nod from his instructor. Good, maintain that, 1 sword attacking and 1 defending. Keep it alternated and your opponent will be guessing the entire time. Shuru then joined both his sword and made 1 horizontal slash. Saber blocked them and, like she did with Lancer, used her sword to send both Shuru's swords upwards and slashed his stomach clean. Shuru coughed up blood at that strike. That move was met with a disappointed look from her. If you decide to do that move in the middle of the fight, then you must be absolutely certain that the opponent won't be able to retaliate. It certainly leaves you exposed. Now, get up, we still have half an hour left before your archery drills and then breakfast. Shuru nodded with a smile on his face as he took his position within a safe distance from Saber. When they started these spars, still in wartime, Shuru looked much too clumsy. It was a one-sided battle every time. Now, Saber could still mop the floor with him, but he could tell that she was enjoying these sessions as much as he did. He could see her smile on her face despite the look of concentration. Right now, was time for them to kick it up a notch as Shuru moved to the offensive, increasing his speed. Oh, you are challenging me, Shuru. Saber parried his offensive sword. He could see the look on her face as his blood pumped in high gear. It was indeed exhilarating. Won't know until I try, right, Saber? Like him, she increased her pace. If one were to enter the dojo, it would be difficult to follow their movements, and Shuru was hard-pressed to use only 1 sword to defend against Saber's onslaught. Still, his awareness of her movement had improved, even if he was now only on the defensive. Saber would even usher her voice within each of her strikes, using her breathing to increase the power. Eventually, Saber realized that she and Shuru had indeed started an entrancing dance with one another. Sure, she could have finished quicker, but she had downed her effort somewhat to equal Shuru's, and now they were in deep synchronization of movement. So much so, that Saber had stopped looking at Shuru as a student she needed to correct Indeed, Shuru was learning from Rin how to use his reinforcement on himself, and the results were showing in their spars. This faster style of fighting lasted 15 minutes, until Shuru's arms buckled and he could not block Saber's shinai from hitting him square on the shoulder. The strength was so much that he was on the ground in deep pain. Saber looked at her shinai in surprise to see it had broken in half. She was by his side immediately, wondering what possessed her to take it this far. "I'm sorry Shuru, are you alright?" She was relieved to see a smile beneath the pained visage. "Ha ha ha, I'm alright Saber. You don't need to apologize, I could tell you're enjoying as much as I did." Avalon was already working its magic as Shuru quietly observed his mana being directed to heal his wounds. Rin's book on healing magic was quite thorough. Saber looked embarrassed at what Shuru said. Yes, she was indeed enjoying it. Well, yes, it was indeed satisfactory, but you are still suffering from last week. She handed me a towel to drench his sweat and a bottle of water. "Once more, do not need to worry about me, Saber, I can take it. Now, how about your mana supply?" Ever since Shuru started supplying her with his blood on a daily basis, Saber found that she did not have to worry about mana as much. She still had Rin's supply, and in a couple of days, Rin would extend her contract with Shuru, meaning that Saber would receive both mana regularly. It was a necessity of her to tell both him and Rin about her mana supply, so as to be able to regulate it throughout the day. While she had enough sleep and food to compensate somewhat, without the Grail supporting her, her entire supply depended on them. "After our session from today, I still have plenty to rely on." "That's good to know, though please don't hesitate to come to me if you need more. I will practice my arrows drills and then I will breakfast for us, Rin will have woken up by then." They both exchanged snorts of derision at that, knowing that the black-haired magus would only wake up after Shuru or Saber knocked on her door rather loud. Saber was specially amused one day when they both got inside Rin's room and Shuru tried shaking her awake, before Rin pulled him to the bed as if he was a comfortable pillow. When Rin realized what she had happened, she screamed and pushed him to the ground, calling him a no-good pervert, much to his own dismay. Shuru's archery drills were pretty straightforward as he had multiple targets located in the house garden. He would either be stationary and aim at them, or he would be on the move. The last part was added by Saber once she saw that he was not challenging himself by simply staying in one place and hitting it dead on every time. While Shuru would do that, Saber went to the washing machine and took their clothes away to dry. Despite Shuru protesting that she was a king once and did not need to worry about house chores, she had insisted. That led to a 2-day crash course by the housewife Shuru Emiya. Saber was surprised to see that Shuru pretty much handled this entire house on his own. As such, she at least became responsible for the clothes, while Shuru did the rest of the chores. Rin was simply comfortable being served, with the occasional step up in the kitchen once in a while. The kitchen . Once Shuru was done with his practice, he went inside the bathroom for a quick shower, before stepping inside the kitchen to see Saber folding their clothes like he had taught her. It was amazing to see how quickly she had learned, and Shuru could only imagine how was it to see her at work ruling a country in the middle of war. Saber was completely focused in every chore she set her mind to, and Shuru did not wish to take her focus away. He already knew what she wanted for breakfast, and Rin would come up eventually. Saber then approached the kitchen with a pile of Shuru's clothes and told him that she would place it inside his bedroom, earning a nod from the boy as he finished their breakfast. In no time, Saber returned and took a seat by the table as she became mesmerized by the sound and smell of her eggs and bacon coming from Shuru's kitchen. "Saber, Fujine will take you today for clothes shopping, right?" "Yes, she was most kind, Shuru. I will have to retribute the favor someday to her." Shuru flipped her eggs and seasoned to her taste. "I bet you already are, she loves playing dress up." Saber nodded with a comfort smile. Indeed, Shuru's sister figure enjoyed it. "We can meet after school and head to work together." Another thing that Saber had insisted on was to help Shuru with the house expenses. Since she and Rin were now living with him, Shuru had trouble keeping up with the expenses and was working extra hours to supply for them. Sakura, Taiga and even Rin brought some food on occasion, but Saber had a very big appetite. So, Shuru talked with his boss and convinced them to hire Saber as well. Usually, Shuru alone would take care of the work in 5 hours, but with Saber there to help him, they were able to take care in half the time and even aid with more. Neiko, the owner's daughter, was quite thrilled to have the blonde girl helping him. Yes, I would like that. Shuru. Saber, for her chance, was thrilled to be working with him. The job was easy enough and thus she was able to help out. Neither bothered to be surprised to see a zombie opening the door to the kitchen and walking towards the counter as if no one were there. It was the same every morning as Rin would need her morning coffee before even acknowledging anyone. This was the scene that Sakura and Taiga walked in and Sakura had to giggle at Rin's haggard appearance. Sakura soon joined the table by Saber's side and greeted the blonde girl, while Taiga appeared by Rin's side with unparalleled energy. Rin, are you still sleeping here? When your house is going to be ready? The aforementioned girl quietly drank her coffee, ignoring the question. These types of question were easily handled. It will take even more time. I fear an Emiya here was gentleman enough to allow me to stay as long as I needed. Oh, but little Shuru is too kind-hearted. I mean, not only Saber is sleeping here, but you are too. It's not okay for two exuberant girls such as yourselves to take advantage on my little Shuru. Shuru's mumble in demise at those words was loud and clear. Fuji-ne, please stop calling me little Shuru, already and Tasaka's right, she can stay as long as she wants. Saber knew from Rin and Shuru that this talk was just formality. As if she had ever considered living anywhere else but with Shuru. Even if she had been living in his house for less than a month, she had already grown quite fond of this place. The dojo, the garden, the quietness, the soothing atmosphere and even better, was the amazing hospitality provided by the house's host, not to mention his amazing culinary skills. For some reason, every time she left this place, even if it were simply to buy groceries, Saber felt the need to return quickly. She missed this place every time she was away. Before their last battle, she wanted to memorize every corner of this place. Now that she had the opportunity to stay with them, stay with him, she found that she wanted to view this place as her home as well. As she looked at the table and looked at Shuru's family, it was quite a pleasant feeling, many times more than any of her previous experiences. Each one of them had their own quirks and personalities. Oh, and Saber, I bet you're eager for clothes shopping. I will take you to many shops and we can find something you like in no time. Saber nodded with a smile in appreciation. Not fair, they can go shopping and I have to go to school. Everyone laughed at Rin's complaint. For all intents and purposes, school was merely a hobby for Rin as she was a magus and her studies would be focused in knowing as much as she possibly could. School, thus, became irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Underscore. == on the way to school ===. Eventually, Shuru took care of the dishes with Sakura's help while Rin got dressed for school. Saber and Taiga would accompany them to school and then head straight to the shopping district. Rin was the last one to get ready before they left to school. Sakura was with Taiga and Shuru was talking with Rin and Saber. They had discussed Saber and Shuru's sparring match from today and how Shuru had improved his reinforcement and mana burst abilities. Shuru had even told that he had been feeling his mana healing his wounds like Rin's book instructed it. Shuru had even reported that he was progressing on the early stages of fire elemental spells, courtesy of his newly implanted magic crest. Rin had looked at the boy, often wondering how much driven he was now and could only smile. Surely, both her and Saber knew precisely why Shuru was pushing himself so hard. While it was worrying in the long run, they were at ease knowing that Shuru would at least take his sweet time getting stronger. Emiya, do you still feel pain using mana? Shuru looked at his hand as he felt his mana passing through his magic circuits. Much less, right now it feels like the occasional pinch. It is now more annoying than pain to be honest. Rin had her hand on her chin as her eyes inspected Shuru. Well, for sure, it won't take more time for you to adapt, but please save some use for tomorrow as I will replicate with you the contract I have with Saber. Shuru nodded with a smile as he was counting on it. This way, he would be a better help to both Rin and Saber, which was a win-win in his book. Rin had thought deeply about the subject and realized that despite having Saber as a strong familiar, her mana supply was feeling the strain. And being a researcher in heart, Rin wished to improve on her knowledge and her skills as a magus. With her having to supply Saber constantly, it was waiting on her reserves. Since Shuru had started supplying Saber with his blood, she could feel less strain on her reserves, thus allowing her more to use on her own experiments. She thus figured that by Shuru supplying Saber the most, she would have even more for herself to use. Not to mention that Shuru had already expressed to her that his skills as a magus would be limited to what he could use in the battlefield. Thus, the magic he used took less and less of his mana supply now that he had another magic crest to rely on. Eventually, they reached the school and said their goodbyes to Saber and Taiga. After school Shuru was calmly walking from school towards the shopping district when he would meet Saber and then walk straight to their work. According to Taiga, who had sent him a text message, they would be now finishing lunch in one of the local diners. It didn't take long for him to find them as he inspected Saber's new wardrobe. The overall color appeared the same, with her long dark blue skirt that reached her knee. Now, though, she was wearing a more loosened short-sleeve white shirt and a short blue middle-sleeve dress on top of the shirt. Both the shirt and the dress had golden flower drawings on it. "Ah Shuru, over here," both Taiga and Saber looked to him and Shuru waved him back. "So, how was it?" "Well, Saber here was a delight and she even picked up these clothes, doesn't she look gorgeous Shuru?" The servant was looking down blushing at the praise from the boisterous woman. While she did enjoy the fabric of these clothes, she did not enjoy being put on the spotlight like that. "Ah, very nice choice Saber, it looks good on you." The girl looked up at Shuru and blushed at the praise, before nodding in appreciation. "Well, off you go to work then, Neko must be waiting for you too." "Thank you, Taiga, for accompanying me." The woman nodded with a bright smile and then jumped on her motorbike, leaving them alone. "Say Saber, do you have other clothes to change? Moving boxes around will definitely ruin your new clothes." Saber nodded, showing a bag with her regular clothes inside. The two then walked side by side until they reached the liquor shop plus bar they would be working on. Saber had used one of the facilities and quickly changed to her regular clothing. When she came out, Shuru was already waiting with his working apron looking at a list of chores for them to perform. Tonight, the bar would be closed for a company event, so they had to fix up the tables and select some bottles from the liquor shop. As usual, Shuru would guide her through and then both of them would be seen carrying boxes and then clean up the premises. All the while, their boss would be looking on with a smile on her face. Shuru alone was already an immense help, but with Saber here helping him, it became way more efficient. And they could see how focused Saber was while Shuru was explaining things to her. In no time, Shuru and Saber had lined up in front of Neko and went through the list of chores finished, before collecting their paycheck. It was already nighttime by the time they left the bar as now they had to do a quick shopping for dinner as probably Rin was waiting for them to arrive. "Say Saber, what do you wish for me to cook tonight, perhaps a Western-style dish?" The girl negated her head. She enjoyed European food, but in her mind, Shuru's Japanese-style cooking was the best. "I would not mind having some yakisoba, it was quite tasty Shuru." He smiled at her, remembering how her eyes sparkled at the time she first ate it. "Okay, I shall even improve on last time and serve a side dish of smoked salmon." Saber was already drooling at the dinner prospects as they left the town market. "Say Shuru, how's the shoulder?" She could see in their work that Shuru was having some trouble while carrying the tables, though she wondered if the slight pain was due to his new magic circuits or the injury she had given him. "No need to worry Saber, it still hurts a little, but by tomorrow it will be good as new." In no time they had arrived home and Shuru started making them dinner. Rin was busy in the kitchen table with many books from school. Saber went for a quick shower before placing her new clothes inside her wardrobe. Once Saber returned to the kitchen, Rin had already piled her books elsewhere as Shuru served dinner. The trio would then exchange quick conversation and then go to bed as tomorrow would require a lot of concentration. Next day. After school, the three of them were in Shuru's and Rin's workshop, seating on top of a blue-colored ceiling design of Rin's making. Saber for the first time since the war was wearing her battle armor and dress. Rin had done wonders for this place as all of their books on magic were kept in tiny shelves around the premises. There was a nice mahogany desk just below the stairways where she would scribble her notes. She had left Shuru's stuff untouched, which really wasn't much, just some old junk that he used to fix it every now and then, although with the training he was undertaking and the studies that Rin had made him do, Shuru barely had the time to indulge in his little hobbies anymore. He now on occasion would take a look at the neighbors' cars and motorcycle. Right now, the three of them had their eyes closed as Rin was busy reciting her enchantment in German language. One of her hands was holding Saber's while the other was on Shuru's chest, joined by Saber's other hand. The shed itself was only barely illuminated by the moonlight outside as the blue-colored seal started glowing. Saber and Rin's hands were together as well as they passed on the energy to Shuru's. In essence, Rin and Saber had a contract together, and with their joined hands, they were replicating said contract to Shuru. Shuru would then regulate his mana back to Saber so as to become the other half of her mana supply and anchor in this world. The entire procedure would be quite slow as they were slowly but surely establishing the connection between Saber and Shuru. Rin had to be careful in this procedure so as not to completely pass her contract to Shuru. Shuru may be stronger now, but right now he would not be able to hold Saber by himself. Perhaps in a couple of years when he became more accustomed to it, but not right now. The ceiling design was glowing in a darker blue hue right now, and it enveloped the three like they were inside an energy shield. As the procedure went on, each one felt different things. Rin felt her mana less strained while Shuru felt the opposite. However, he was happy to feel his connection to Saber once more like they were master and servant. Saber, for her chance, felt a strong yellow light inside of her body and she missed that feeling. While she felt it when she drank blood from Shuru, this time the embracing energy of Avalon was flowing inside of her through her reinstated link with her master. Yes, while Saber had become Rin's servant due to Caster severing her link with Shuru, she had always felt that Shuru was her true master. And right now, she could feel that bond with him once more. The energy that flowed through both of them, the energy that once more reunited them, Avalon. Once the three opened their eyes, Saber and Shuru looked at one another and simply nodded at each other with a deep smile. There were no words to be exchanged as they could both feel each other once more, through their bond. Shuru could feel his mana supply steadily supplying her together with Rin's. Is it finished, Tasaka? Shuru could see her smug smile aimed at him. She took great pride in her work after all. Can't you feel it, Emiya? Of course, it is finished, now you have to take your sweet time modulating your own mana supply. Your projections and reinforcement do not take much out of you, with the exception of the reality marble, but we can still make some tests to see how easy you can summon it now that you have a new magic crest. In time as you get better used to it, you will be able to use your abilities without much consumption. Now, I can't say for sure that Saber won't be needing your blood anymore, but I can guess that it will be less now, right Saber? The servant was simply in her own little world enjoying this old feeling of when she was Shuru's master when she noticed that Rin had asked her a question. What? Oh sorry, yes Rin, I won't need as much. With both of you supplying me this much, perhaps, once or twice a week. Rin and Shuru both nodded in acceptance, before the three of them moved to the kitchen for a quick dinner. Saber and Shuru had already discussed that tomorrow their practice would be in Shuru's reality marble, so things would get rough. They needed to practice their strongest attacks, so as to ascertain the amount of mana they could withstand in their current level. Not today, however, was the both of them needed to conserve their energy for tomorrow. When morning came, Shuru and Saber were staring at each other in the house's garden. Shuru had his eyes closed in concentration while Saber was with her battle armor and Excalibur in her hands. She did not need to hide her weapon in a spar. Rin was there too as she had to reinforce the bounded field inside the house so as to keep damage to a minimum. Shuru's inside circuits started buzzing in electricity, at least his original ones aided by Rin's first magic crest implanted on his right shoulder. He kept the circuits from his second magic crest supplying Saber. When he opened his eyes, he transported all three of them to his reality marble. Rin was looking around in awe, as she was not with them when Shuru faced Archer. She could see the swords lining up all around the field just like the images she remembered from Archer's memory. Touching one sword, Rin was surprised to see a flash of memory about a man being pierced by this very sword, probably by Archer's, or Emiya's, she did not know anymore. Probably, Shuru's element and origin had a huge play in him being able to sustain this reality marble. Saber looked at her master with a fierce smile on her face. Fighting her master like this would allow her to truly get loose without fear of hurting him. Are you ready Shuru? The boy summoned his Kansho and Bakuya and even reinforced them. Against Excalibur, the regular ones would not last long. Come Saber, Shuru had fallen into position as Saber had used her mana burst to move forward fast with a slash of her sword but was blocked by Shuru's now longer swords. The sound surprised Rin. While she had witnessed some of their spars with a wooden sword, she had no idea that these two would be fighting like this. Still, Shuru's swords were similar to archers, although longer and with scales coming out close to the hilt. Shuru and Saber were going all out, or at least Shuru was. No one can ever know if Saber was indeed going all out or just keeping pace with him. Still, it was an amazing dance in Rin's eyes as master and servant were at one another. Saber took special caution not to attack Shuru's vital spots, but she took an opening when provided, slim as they were. As such, Shuru had a couple of cuts on his arms and legs. Saber was just about to make a deep slash with Excalibur when Shuru made a spin movement with both his swords, blocking her strike and posing a threat. Saber saw the sudden move and she admitted being taken by surprise. When both of Shuru's weapons smashed on hers, the ground beneath her cracked. Shuru backed away just as Saber burst in front of his former position with a wind energy slash that would have skewered him. Rin shrugged at seeing Excalibur glowing in yellow energy. She could see that Saber's face was entirely involved in this fight, same as Shuru. The Saber servant would skillfully dodge Shuru's projected swords that came flying at her. Then Shuru had increased the number of swords and even shape of them, summoning some swords that were twice his body in size and length. Excalibur was slicing them all in half with ease, though. Rin had lost track on how many swords Shuru had summoned to his side and even how many Kansho and Bakuya. In her eyes, this was no longer a spar. Shuru. She heard Saber scream at him as she had closed her eyes to manifest her noble phantasm. Shuru looked on at the gathering of energy and smirked at her. He could feel his energy being drenched. There was only enough for one more technique. Saber knew that, so she had decided to use it after all. Shuru would fight fire with fire. He placed both hands closer together with an open palm as he gathered energy in them for Archer's signal move. When Saber had enough gathered energy, she opened her mouth and screamed. Shuru did the same. Rin had just shielded her eyes at the sheer intensity of Saber's noble phantasm. Excalibur RR. Ro Arias. Excalibur's powerful wave of energy met the unbreakable flower petals from Shuru's defense. The resulting clash was a bright light that enveloped them all. When the light cleared, Shuru's defense was no more and a huge gash on the mountain appeared courtesy of Saber's attack. Shuru just could not hold his defense for long and managed to get the hell away from the rest of her onslaught. Saber by now was using her own supply of mana as she had used plenty of Shuru's by releasing her noble phantasm. She could feel Shuru on the ground panting for breath just as he released his reality marble, returning safely to the garden. As Saber kneeled next to her master, she had placed her hand on his chest and transferred her own supply of mana to him. Avalon would work on his wounds and replenish his strength long enough for Saber to be safe. She saw Shuru's content visage and could not help but share it. They could be stronger than this, she knew that. Excitement was written in both their faces. In fact, none of them even realized that there was a third person gawking at such an display. Who would ever think that these two were such monsters? Well, she already saw Saber's display when she destroyed the Grail, but seeing Shuru fight like this, fight like Archer did, was mind-blowing to say the least. A year has passed since Shuru had begun supplying mana to Saber. By now, his tutors fairly believed that he became not only a competent mage in Rin's eyes and a fabulous fighter in Saber's. His magus training consisted mainly in him learning fire elemental mage craft, healing magic and rune crafts. Rin had taught him a couple of other things, about the more theoretical part of thaumaturgy such as alchemy and jewelmage craft, but Shuru had opted to learn them only in passing. He had already a good specialization, probably better than most in projection and reinforcement. His interest in rune craft became to the point that he could create some very strong bounded fields, writing the sealing array on the rocks and spreading them in random locations. It certainly served to imprison enemies as Saber had to use force in order to break free. Shuru had also used rune craft on his projected swords. Rin had given him the idea and he went to work on immediately. By adding runes to his projected swords, he could make them more durable without the need of reinforcement. Shuru had even managed to learn how to devise bounded fields that would absorb and even reflect attacks. Rin had offered to be the guinea pig and used her G and R shots against his rune's protection. It ended up reflecting on herself. Rin had bombarded him with G and R shots in retaliation when that happened, forcing Shuru to run for his life. His rune's craft worked wonderfully well when he projected a plain caliburn and then added reinforcement runes to stabilize the elements inside the sword noble phantasm. Saber was specially thrilled to fight with her noble sword once more, and even more so, knowing that it no longer took too much from Shuru to project it. Rin had given her student at least a passing grade after all that, much to Shuru's dismay. She had very high standards. Lastly, she had instructed that Shuru to never use his reality marble unless they encountered a life or death situations, and certainly never in the presence of anyone from the association. Shuru at the time asked why, but Rin had simply told him to trust her on this. Not only it would jeopardize Saber's supply, but it would also mark him a target from the association, which would not be pretty. Shuru was already convinced when Rin had mentioned that it would jeopardize Saber. It was better to let her do the tougher fights when the situation called for it, as he would be Saber's main battery charge. In terms of swordplay, Saber had already believed that Shuru was a worthy opponent before. As their spars continued, they could see that Shuru had grown quite considerably. Not only taller, but his overall muscles were further developed now. As for his style of fighting, Archer's style became second nature to his movements. Also, Shuru had trained extensively in Saber's style to the point that she believed him to be at least adequate. If Shuru were to fight against a swordsman or woman of her level, he would know how to attack and defend properly. The greatest surprise came from Saber. Seeing as Avalon was inside Shuru's and not in her, it did not impede her body from running its natural course anymore. She was thus surprised to see that she had grown a couple of inches ever since staying with them. Rin theorized that the power of Avalon created a bounded field that would bequeath limited immortality through constant regeneration, as well as preventing physical deterioration caused by aging. Saber found this new experience to be quite interesting. Ever since she took Caliburn from the stone, she had not aged a day, and now, she was seeing this new development with keen eye. So much so that Rin and even Taiga had introduced Saber on more feminine matters. She still had the same mentality of a knight and king, but after much insistence from Rin and even compliments coming from Shuru, to which she blushed slightly, Saber relented and accepted it slightly. The three friends had been inseparable this past year. Aside from school, work, training and studying, the three had been to many places in Fuyuki and the region. Shuru had even taught Saber how to swim. They had tickets for Shinto's public pool attraction, and it was quite amusing to see the servant's eyes spark every time she went down the water slides in fast velocity. However, her favorite attraction was the wave pool, as she would simply stay afloat for hours in deep relaxation, much to Rin and Shuru's amusement. They had even taken Saber to know some other major cities in Japan like Tokyo and Kyoto. Her eyes were glued to the history of samurai and the different swords in existence. With time, Shuru and Rin had developed quite the bond as well. While not the same as what happened in the Fifth Grail War, Shuru could confide many things with her and she with him. So much so, that Rin had told him about the letters that she had exchanged with the Mages Association. She said that after graduation, she was thinking of going there to expand on her mage knowledge. She had extended the invitation to him as well to go study with her there. Shuru had declined the offer to study mage craft, opting instead to use his skills in order to save people. Rin had understood his reasoning, seeing as he would not be able to do that being inside the Mages Association. Rin knew that Saber would remain with Shuru as per her oath to protect him. Of course, that would mean that Rin would not be able to provide Saber with mana, seeing as she would be in London. As such, Shuru had even offered to provide all of Saber's mana, thus freeing Rin to do what she wished to do. Shuru's magic prowess was becoming top-notch and would only improve with time. And Rin wanted to have as much mana as possible for her studies. At times, they were able to make some tests. Rin had devised a system between them that would allow for either Shuru or Rin to compensate for Saber's mana supply. Normally, they would supply equal amounts, but with this new system, either Rin or Shuru could provide more or less. One time, Shuru had supplied all of Saber's supply and the three were surprised to see that it was not overwhelming to him. Of course, his own abilities as a fighter was severely diminished, but with his rune craft providing for his sword's reinforcement, Shuru needed only 1 or 2 projections to fight. Shuru still provided Saber with his blood, but that now was needed once or twice a month. Of course, once the mission started, then he would need to provide more, depending on the situation. But, neither Saber nor Shuru minded the situation as both got used to it. In terms of Rin's decision to eventually go study abroad, the three had believed that this conversation would be tense between them, but surprisingly so, it was not. Both Saber and Rin had known that they would not be able to quell Shuru's trust for saving people much longer. And he could not do that while studying at the association. Also, Saber was not a fan of simply going to school either, neither was she a fan of waiting for them to return from school and doing nothing. As a knight, she missed the action and fighting Shuru every day, while enough to satisfy somewhat, lacked the element of danger and the rush of fighting. She believed that it was her oath as a knight and Shuru's partner to aid him in saving as many as possible. It made her remember the missions she would lead as king together with her knights to unite the country. Still, the three were indeed inseparable and Shuru vouched to come visit Rin every time they were in Europe, much to the brunette's delight. Perhaps, she could check the insides of the association to see which areas that her friend could participate. Rin was no stranger to the world of enforcers and even freelancers who would be asked at times to aid the association with matters involving magic being used against the association's doctrines around the world. She would definitely look into it once arriving there. She could even be Shuru's contact in there once she had settled down. One thing that changed for the better was Shuru and Saber's relationship. After Shuru's wonderful dinners, Rin would often go to sleep early and thus the other two would simply stick around, drinking tea and chat, though it was mostly Saber who spoke and Shuru listened. Shuru was especially curious about how Saber's life was both before and after she took Caliburn from the stone. She gladly explained it all to him, even the dark parts of her history like Lancelot's secret affair with Guinevere, Mordred, the Knight of Treachery and even other dark episodes like Sir Tristan who accused her at the time of not understanding the hearts of men. While he had seen some footage from their shared memories in wartime, he had not much to go on. To this day, Saber would venture about her dreams and wishes to him. While they both knew that the Grail system would no longer grant her what she wanted, it did not mean that she had forgotten and moved on that easily. Shuru talked about the time of the fire and Saber remembered seeing his dreams as if she was right there by his side. To her, it was a very traumatic experience. The feeling of being useless to others, while at the same time fighting for your life. They talked about many things, indeed, though she was dissatisfied with some of his opinions. Truth be told, being ancient times, the penalty for atrocities was either life imprisonment or a death sentence. To an idealistic like him it was unacceptable. Still, Saber took the time and explained to him about what was needed of the king in those times. Yes, respect had to be earned just like today, but authority needed to be enforced on occasion. Shuru had learned that, unlike today's political systems, back then there was only monarchy. The king would decide all matters. The king was both the judge and the executioner. If the king had opted to let someone live, a bunch of political ramifications would follow. The same would happen if the king ordered someone's execution. Despite it all, she was successful in uniting her people and for that she had earned Shuru's respect even more than before. Truly, he had no idea the amount of tribulations that she went through as king. Aside from that, they had discussed the events of the Fourth Grail War. Shuru had forgotten that she was his father's previous servant, though he understood from her that many of his decisions in the last war had brought shame to her as a knight. Shuru was introduced to a Kuritsugu that he did not know before. He was introduced to his fame in the association, known as the Magus Killer. Dark schemes, backstabbing, betrayal, all of this happened in the last war and mostly caused by Kuritsugu's actions. Still, Saber theorized that in the end, he must have had knowledge about the Grail's true nature, hence why he ordered her to destroy it. Shuru then came to know more about his father's wife and Ilya's mother Irisaville. Aside from the fights with Lancer, which Saber considered a greater adversary than this war's Lancer, Irisaville was perhaps the only good thing that happened to Saber. Irisaville was the opposite to Kuritsugu. She was happy, straightforward even excessively so, wanted to enjoy life as much as possible. She had even confided a dark moment in the last war when she had discovered that Berserker was her most treasured knight Sir Lancelot. Shuru was surprised when Saber cried as she retailed that experience. They were at the house's garden that night and Shuru held her close to his chest in an attempt to comfort her. Saber had hugged him back that day as her tears drenched his shirt. One thing that changed throughout this year was that Saber had shown more of her vulnerability. Her insecurities to him. In times of war, she was afraid of doing this, but nowadays, there was no fight to be fought, at least not yet, and certainly no need to keep up a tough front. She could be free to express herself to him. As such, their bond got even stronger. Saber could confide with him, better than with Rin. While she appreciated the company of the woman Magus, she was much more at ease with him. After that talk, Saber and Shuru developed an even closer friendship. While she would go out with Rin, Taiga and Sakura on occasions, she would be with Shuru most of the time, be it in training and in their commute to work. Shuru had even expanded their side hustles and found another job for the pair. While they would work at Neko's pub on Mondays and Wednesdays, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Shuru would work as a chef in a cafe while Saber served the customers. Rin had even given the idea of joining them for dinner at the cafe with Sakura on occasion. Of course, at the beginning, Saber had to learn how to attend the customers, which was a new and taxing experience. If it weren't for Shuru explaining the craft and even calm her nerves at some of the customers, she would be quite lost. ===4x=======. This Friday, Rin had invited Saber for a quick getaway in Shinto district. Usually, Sakura would tag along, but not today, and Shuru would be busy helping his friend Issei with the student council. The timid girl had been rather close to Rin from the past few months for reasons that Rin did not wish to tell them. Sure, she knew that if Shuru were to hear about what her sister went through, he would march straight to the house and deal with it, probably doing more harm than good. She had a plan to take Sakura away with her to London as soon as Rin graduated. Rin would use the association to protect her little sister from Sakura's adopted grandfather. For this, she could not count with Shuru and Saber, because it required a more finesse approach. If Zukin knew what she intended on doing, then he would trap Sakura inside their house, and then Rin would need to go in there and rescue her by force, which, knowing the elusive magician, it would not work well. As to Shuru, Saber came to know about his nickname at the school and could not help but be amused at his altruism. Rin's opinion was more negative, saying that people only took advantage of his kindness. Still, Issei was a respectable young man in Saber's opinion, soon to become a priest at the Ryudo temple. He would not take advantage of Shuru, considering such background. She came to understand that Issei and Rin does not see eye to eye, so it explained why Rin would be against Shuru helping the soon-to-be priest. After they descended from the bus, they visited a couple of shops and food trucks while exchanging pleasant talk along the way. It was a nice break from the heavy schedule that both undertook. Saber had even asked them to have another round of baseball, much to Rin's chagrin as she remembered how competitive Saber was the first time around. After a couple of rounds, they ended their getaway inside a fancier Western-style restaurant. While Saber believed that Shuru's cooking was better, it was nice to meet new restaurants. "So, Saber, tell me how it's like working as a waitress," Rin giggled as she saw Saber breathe deeply. "It's tiring sometimes, Rin. I really wished that I had not talked Shuru into finding another place for us to work. Every time, she would attend a customer or two that ordered out of the menu, demanding substitution. I know that Shuru makes literal magic in the kitchen and is able to adapt to some requests, but I do find it quite irritating." Rin nodded with a smile as she drank her refreshment. "I have already told you too that you don't need to work 2 jobs. I have enough money to help with the house expenses." Yes, and Shuru had already explained it numerous times that she was a guest in his house as well as Saber. It just so happens that Saber would not allow him to do everything alone. "No, Rin, I refuse to simply do nothing while Shuru does all the work. It's not how I was raised. Even when I was king, I rarely delegated." Rin sighed at such a work ethic. "Okay, then, forget I said anything. Still, this is only temporary. Once we graduate, I will be in London studying and you guys will be traveling around, doing assignments." Saber nodded with a radiant smile at the prospect as she ate her French fries. She and Shuru had discussed in length about their adventures together after he graduated. They would be traveling across many countries around the globe. Rin would enroll them to the association as freelancers and even aid them with missions. Shuru was even thinking of offering their services to the church. While they would not be executors, Saber was specially thrilled at the notion of hunting vampires and dead apostles. She had dealt with them a couple of times as king and found them to be quite the adversary in battle. Rin had a contact or two from her time with Kotomine Kirei, who was an executor before becoming an overseer for the Grail Wars in Fuyuki. I will never figure you two out, going out there, risking your lives. I very much prefer doing research, like a true magus in search for the root. Yes, while Rin was not busy teaching magic to Shuru, she would be inside her workshop for hours. Saber complimented on her work ethic, though like Shuru, she praised practice over theory any day. Still, there was something that bothered Saber these last few months. She observed her friend's relationship with a keen eye, often wondering about the presence of romance between the two, or lack thereof. She never pried about it, neither asking Shuru nor Rin. Sure, they were close, closer than many couples that Saber had ever known. However, while they enjoyed each other's presence and were at ease with each other, that spark was simply not there like it was when they fought together in the war. Saber remembered with quite fondness at the couple's constant bickering with each other. Rin would boss him around sometimes and Shuru would stubbornly respond to Rin. In essence, it appeared to be a couple in every sense of the word. Today, though, they were indeed best friends, but not a couple. Rin, the brunette girl, looked up from the menu she was looking at and looked in curiosity as Saber was finding the right words to bring a certain subject. Yes, Saber, what is it? The servant was indeed trying to search the right words, while being afraid in trespassing a personal line with her friends. There is something I wanted to talk about, but I never brought it up. I did not want to temper with personal matters between you two. Rin frowned but ushered her to go on. Did something happen between you and Shuru? No, why do you ask? He sometimes gets into my nerves and I wish to shoot him point blank range, but... Rin was at a loss about what could be possibly have happened that Saber was acting like this. I am sorry for prying into personal matters, but during the war, you two were rather close. Dare I say that you two would be more intimate by now. Rin opened her mouth in slight surprise but closed as she smiled at Saber. She had pondered that shortly after the war happened. Indeed, her relationship with the Baka during the war was close to a romantic one and certainly they became intimate when she passed on some of her mana to him so that Shuru could defeat Gilgamesh. But she later realized that her love for him lied somewhere else. She had treasured her relationship with Archer, troubled as it was at the beginning. And Shuru's declarations to her throughout the war caught her by surprise. But those declarations stopped after the war and it allowed Rin time to ponder just what she felt for him. She did care for him a great deal, just not in that way. You don't need to apologize, Saber. It would be something I would ask anyway. Saber could see a content smile on Rin's face as she explained. Truly, you're right, while I care deeply for the idiot, I see him like a very close friend. Saber looked in surprise at that, wondering about it. And I believe he feels the same way too, you know. In the war, he had proclaimed his love to me on some occasions. But we were both teenagers at the time. Hell, we are still teenagers. As close as we are, our interests lie elsewhere. I will try to help him not only from a promise I made to Archer, but also because I care deeply about his well-being. Saber could see that Rin was not dishonest in her words. As king, she had plenty of experience in telling when a person was either dodging the question or answering with half-truths. I see. Rin took a sip of her refreshment as she turned to ponder on Saber's far-off look. What about you, though? I can see that you care about him, Saber. Rin had a look of mischief as he commented. I do wonder if perhaps there is something more than an oath to his protection. Saber was surprised at the turn around, but her mind could not help but ponder on the question. Before long, Saber was surprised by the sudden giggling coming from Rin as her hand was on her mouth. The blonde girl blushed slightly and pouted at being laughed at. Rin realized that and apologized. Sorry there, Saber, it's just that you two had been rather close as of late, that's all. You guys are everywhere together and do not think I didn't know about the times you two stood up late chatting. It's nice to see you two close like that. Truth be told, Rin could tell that the former king had too many similarities with the idiot. She could tell how comfortable Saber was when he was around. Even Sakura had commented on occasion as Rin remembered that it came loaded with jealousy. The servant, for her turn, now pondered truly, forgetting Rin's tease. Truth be told, she did feel at ease around Shuru. She had this feeling even throughout the war, not only from their interactions and training, but based on their shared ideals. Could I As she was about to vanish after the Grail's destruction, Saber thought that she wanted to stay with them. Her wish would not be granted, no matter how hard she tried, so what harm would be if she had another wish in her life? She wanted to protect him, she wanted to be by his side, fight by his side, mainly to prove Archer wrong. But this past year made her realize that perhaps there was indeed something else there, aside from his mere protection. For the life of her, having feelings like that for another person was a foreign feeling, something that simply was not in her life as knight and even less as king. When she married Guinevere, it was more for the pressure that a king must have a queen, nothing more. Emiya Shuru had provided for her and helped her in so many ways that he surely became a precious person to her. Was it love? She did not know. Saber, you're with me, Saber, the servant blinked, coming back to the present as Rin waved her hand close to her face. You spaced out on me for a moment. Sorry Rin, I was deep in thought. I can see that, you do care for him, huh? This time, Saber was more truthful and nodded with a content smile on her face. I guess I do, I mean, he always went out of his way for me, even risking his own life. He had showed me the way, showed me how wrong I was. Rin placed both her hands below her chest as she listened to the girl in front of her. Saber's fond smile at her idiot friend was too much. When I witnessed his fight against Archer, seeing him fight against his own ideal like that, I could tell that Archer's words reached out to him deeply that day. I truly believed that Shuru would accept the inevitability of his future and accept his death. But he still fought Archer, he fought the one he would become in the future. He faced the odds, never once faltering on his will to prove Archer wrong. In that moment, I realized that my dream had come to an end. Shuru has provided me an answer that was more than sufficient. I once had a dream, but it is a story of a little girl I would not recognize, not anymore at least. Rin had known about Saber's wish eventually and found great respect for her. I realized that in my folly, I was doing the same thing as Archer. By killing Shuru, he was attempting to rid the world of his own existence. When I wished for another to pull the sword, in truth, I wanted to erase my own existence. I see, such a deep idea to ponder in Rin's opinion. By seeing Shuru fight that day, I realized my dream was wrong even before we heard the true nature of the Grail from Gilgamesh. And all thanks to him, in the end. I have a great load of gratitude for Shuru as he showed me back then. Even now, he strives to become better, to become stronger, and I can only admire him even more. Rin snorted, in her mind, Saber was indeed having many feelings for her idiot friend. And the worst part was that he did not even realize that he was slowly but surely sweeping Saber off her feet by simply being who he is. Not that the king would confess it right away, but if things went according to plan, then they both would have plenty of time to process it all. And if Rin was as shrewd as she was, then she had the feeling that Shuru also cared deeply for Saber. Well, I guess you are in deep trouble, huh? However, Saber just looked at Rin funny. I don't know what you mean, Rin, the brunette just smiled at her friend's innocent facial expression. Never mind, shall we ask for the bill? The last bus will leave soon and I'm guessing Shuru is waiting us for dinner. Still clueless to Rin's comment, the servant nodded and they both got up. Saber was looking forward to tonight's dinner. Every Friday, her partner would work extra hard in the kitchen and make a banquet for them. Yes, she had eaten a few minutes now, but when it comes to his cooking, she always had room for it. For a servant, food consumption equaled mana supply. The more she ate, the more energy she had in the end. Add to the fact that Shuru's cooking surpasses everything she had ever eaten, and in terms of food, at least, she was set for life. That's it for part 1 of Naruto and the Forbidden Avalon Bond. If you enjoyed this intense alternate timeline, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below, should Naruto reveal the truth about the bond, or keep risking his life in secret? See you in part 2.